Are aliens real? For a long time, the official stance of the government was that aliens do not exist, and they have tried to maintain that stance by shaping public opinion on the subject. However, one physicist who witnessed it all, Bob Lazar, has finally decided to come public about aliens, and the revelation is shocking. What has Bob Lazar revealed about aliens, and should you be afraid of an invasion? Stay tuned as Bob Lazar breaks his silence about alien technology and reveals they have lied to us since 1955.
About 15 miles south of Area 51.
Okay.
But
you worked in how would you describe it?
I guess within the Area 51 compound. You can call that a subset of Area 51.
And you got that job. Before that, you were working...
Before that, I had worked at Los Alamos National Labs in New Mexico.
And you were involved in what kind of work?
Nuclear weapon development, physics. I mean, they do everything there.
Area S4 and Area 51 are two names for secret military outposts in the Nevada desert. Many theories and hypotheses regarding extraterrestrial life and technology have revolved around them. There is, however, little official information about their existence or use, but that is not surprising given the level of secrecy surrounding the operations going on there. Area 51 is a highly classified military base located in southern Nevada at Groom Lake. Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California is in charge of it. The facility has been the subject of several speculations regarding extraterrestrial life, despite the fact that its only confirmed purpose is as a flight testing facility. For years, there was suspicion concerning the installation, particularly in light of increasing claims of UFO encounters in the area. The site became known as Area 51 since it was labeled on Atomic Energy Commission maps. Area 51 has a lengthy history of producing and testing cutting-edge aircraft for the United States military and intelligence organizations. The U-2 espionage plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, and the RQ-170 Sentinel stealth drone are among the aircraft tested or produced at Area 51. Other facilities and operations connected to aeronautical research, including as radar systems, weapon systems, and experimental aircraft, are also housed on the site. The secrecy surrounding Area 51 notwithstanding, there have been various exposés about what happens there. Among the most popular theories are the following. The site houses an alien spaceship and the bodies of its pilots who died in a 1947 crash in Roswell, New Mexico. The wreckage was purportedly collected by the US government and transferred to Area 51 for reverse engineering and examination. The location serves as a hub for communication and collaboration with extraterrestrial creatures that have supplied superior technology and knowledge to the US government in exchange for human subjects and resources. The facility serves as a base for false flag operations and psychological warfare, such as staging bogus extraterrestrial invasions or abductions or generating holographic projections of religious people or events. The site serves as a portal to other dimensions or realities, allowing the US government access to alternate timelines or parallel worlds. However, the United States government has never recognized the existence of alien life or technology at Area 51 and has even flat out constantly denied any participation in UFO phenomenon. The US government has also maintained that Area 51 is a normal military installation that conducts routine activities related to national security and defense. But that won't stop eagle-eyed observers from reporting what they see. Now, Area S4 is the designation given to a supposed secret location located several kilometers south of Area 51. It's where Bob Lazar says he was employed in the late 1980s to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology. His assertion spurred public interest and debate regarding Area 51 and its possible links to UFOs and aliens. Lazar claims he was recruited by Edward Teller, a distinguished physicist and one of the fathers of the hydrogen bomb. He claims he was employed to work on a project named Galileo, which included reverse engineering alien spacecraft at a facility called S4, which is said to be roughly 15 miles south of Area 51. He claims to have inspected an alien craft known as the Sport Model, which was powered by an antimatter reactor that utilized an element known as Element 115. He also claims to have read briefing documents from the US government detailing alien participation in human affairs over the last 10,000 years. Lazar's claims brought additional public attention to Area 51. He appeared in several interviews, documentaries, and podcasts where he revealed details about his work at S4 and his knowledge of alien technology. He also claimed that he witnessed several test flights of the alien craft at night near Papoose Lake, which is adjacent to S4. He said that the craft could perform maneuvers that defied the laws of physics, such as hovering, accelerating, and disappearing. Lazar first became known to the public in 1989 when he was interviewed by George Knapp of KLAS-TV in Las Vegas. Lazar initially used the pseudonym Dennis and spoke exclusively in silhouette. Later, though, he appeared without a disguise and under his true name. Lazar's allegations were fantastic. The US government possessed 9 crashed or captured spacecraft from another planet, at least one of which was shaped like a genuine saucer. Lazar said he was part of a government-hired crew that reverse-engineered the craft in order to provide the propulsion secrets needed by American scientists to pave the way to the stars. Lazar claimed he was fired from the hidden military site because he had led some companions into the desert near Area 51 one evening to secretly observe a saucer test flight. A Lincoln County constable observed the gang leaving the location and reported Lazar to the authorities. Lazar worked near Area 51 in the Nevada desert and said he saw 9 alien spacecraft at the secure military location. He explained, "I gave everything sample names. There is the Top Hat one and the Jello mold. The Sport Model operated without any hitches at all. It looked new, if I know what a new flying saucer looks like. One of them looked like it was hit with some sort of projectile. It had a large hole in the bottom and a large hole in the top with the metal bent out, like some sort of large caliber 4 or 5-inch projectile had gone through it." Lazar claims that he believed the ship came from somewhere else even before he saw the Sport Model operate. The realization hit him square in the face the first time he saw the inside of the disc. He continued, "I got to look inside and it had really small chairs, and I think that was the first confirmation I had that was just a shocking thing, because every time before that I was able to label it, well, this is just a little advance that a group of scientists had formed, and you know they're keeping it secret, and yeah, we could have been the big discs like that, that's no problem, and you know you could have adapted these to make it fly, but why does it have little furniture inside, essentially little seats?" According to Lazar, some of the discs had been entirely demolished in order to figure out how they operated, but others were fully functional. Lazar also talks about a test flight he saw. He said the bottom of it glowed blue and began to hiss, like high voltage does on a round sphere. "It's my impression that the reason that they're round and have no sharp edges is to contain the high voltage. Like if you've seen on high voltage systems, the insulators, things are round or else you get a corona discharge. In either case, it began to hiss as in high voltage, and it lifted off the ground quietly, except with a little hiss in the background, and then that stopped as soon as it reached about 20 to 30 feet. According to Lazar, the Sport Model's test was brief and it barely made a few moves before settling back down. He didn't see who was piloting the craft, but he was nonetheless astonished. He explained, "Well, there's no action-reaction system to it. There's no, like in a jet engine, exhaust gas being thrown out, no propeller, no noise. It's just, for all intents and purposes, magic." According to Lazar, the flying discs are not being used for any journeys to Jupiter. He claims that excessive caution and intense secrecy contributed to the program's plodding pace and were a major source of his dissatisfaction. Lazar said, "It's just unfair outright not to put it in the hands of the overall scientific community. There are people that are much more capable of dealing with this information and by this time would have gotten a lot further along than this select small group of people working out in the middle of the desert. They don't even have the facilities really to completely analyze what they're dealing with." Close friend Gene Huff saw the pressure Lazar felt from the military and described it this way. Well, he was being quiet, and if he kept me abreast of anything, he kept me abreast of these security checks. They'd randomly drop by his house, they threatened his wife, they threatened his wife's life. They had done all that, so we really didn't converse. I mean, he really was adhering to the program. Huff is a real estate appraiser in Las Vegas, a typical guy with a friend in the flying saucer business, and he only found out about Lazar's S4 adventures after a long time. Lazar wants people to know that he didn't just go out and expose the universe's secrets and that some things are properly kept private. He continues, I did not believe that this should be a security matter. Some of it, sure, but just the concept that there's definite proof and we even have articles from another world, another system. You just can't not tell everyone. A lot of people don't believe that, but I do. And so, when Lazar had had enough, he led Huff and a few others to the edge of Groom Mountains to observe the flights for themselves. On 2 consecutive weeks, 5 witnesses eluded security patrols long enough to see the odd light object soar over the mountains. According to Huff, it came up above the same mountain, it moved around, and it made a step move. It literally rose into the air and hovered before plummeting dramatically. Then it merely floated about and cruised around before beginning to climb the mountain range. And there was a video that was shot on one of the treks to the Groom Mountains. To be sure, the tape demonstrates very little on its own because there are no reference points other than the supposed flying disc due to the distance and darkness. But not once, but twice, Lazar's intelligence concerning the time and location of the test flights proved right. This is corroborated by multiple eyewitnesses that granted interviews. Describing his own second sighting, Huff said through a telescope that he saw it was an elliptically shaped light. It passed them very quickly, glowed stronger and brighter like a sun, and they almost thought it was going to explode. It glowed so brightly that they backed up behind the car. Then it moved down, shined a little bit, and very quietly drifted back over to the mountains where it came up, hovered for a while, and then just sat down as you see in films. Meanwhile, Lazar isn't the only one who claims to have first-hand knowledge of the flying discs at the test site. He's just the only one who says it publicly. A technician in a highly sensitive position said it was common knowledge among those with high security clearances that recovered alien discs are stored at the Nevada test site. And a Las Vegas professional who served in the military and was stationed at Area 51 claims to have seen a flying disc land outside the test site. Security personnel swiftly encircled him, and he was hauled away and debriefed for several hours. Another man who used to work as a technician at Groom Lake filed a letter about how he unintentionally stepped into the wrong hangar and spotted what seemed to be a big metallic disc behind a tarp. Men in lab coats were inspecting it. And an airman who served at Nellis at a radar post says he and his fellow servicemen witnessed odd things flying over the Groom Mountains over a 5-night span. He claims that the radar photographs show the things zooming into range at 7,000 miles per hour and then stopping on a dime, and that nothing we have is capable of doing so. The airman claims that when word of the sighting spread, he was directed to turn off his radar sensors for that area and to keep quiet about it because it did not occur. Now, none of this implies that the military is flying alien spacecraft in the Nevada desert. Instead, it might all be explained by some other secret program. Lazar, however, is adamant that this is not the case. Yet, when approached, 4 different naval officers denied having any materials in their files. The Naval Research Laboratory stated that it did a comprehensive search but discovered nothing. Naval Intelligence stated the same thing, adding that it's not necessary to create a file when one does not exist. And yet, Lazar is also corroborated by a polygraph test administered by Terry Tavernetti, who worked in corporate security for a large Las Vegas hotel property after years as a cop in Southern California. He administered thousands of polygraph exams to casino personnel and was regarded as one of the best in the business. Tavernetti still has the test sheets and machine 30 years later. When recently asked if he believes Lazar was speaking the truth, Tavernetti's response was straightforward and confident, yeah. Tavernetti these days no longer uses his sparkling polygraph machine, and he said he had no idea he and his lie detector would be sucked into one of the most contentious UFO investigations in history. Lazar agreed to the polygraph test at the request of KLAS-TV. The initial test was inconclusive. The examiner, Terry Tavernetti, thought Lazar was so jittery that getting an accurate read on him was difficult. Tavernetti was advised at this point he questioned Lazar about the primary allegations that he'd seen a flying disc at the S4 base and that the vehicle was powered by an antimatter reactor and generated its own gravity. Lazar passed, much to Tavernetti's amazement. Tavernetti was not even a believer in UFOs. He had no core views concerning UFOs because he had never polygraphed anyone about them. However, 30 years later, he recalls what was going through his head throughout the exam when it appeared that Lazar was telling the truth. He said what he was hearing was unbelievable, but that his polygraph machine did not lie. Now, two weird things happened after the initial news item on Tavernetti's test appeared on KLAS-TV. The first, he claims, was being called on the carpet by his employer as a result of a phone call from an unidentified federal agency. A government agency called the corporate offices where he works and demanded to know why he was getting involved in something he shouldn't be. Tavernetti never found out whose agency had contacted his company. He said that his employer conducted an internal investigation, but he was never reprimanded. The second event occurred 2 months after the article was broadcast. His house had been broken into. Tavernetti suspects whoever it was attempting to steal Lazar's exam charts. He had, however, produced copies of the charts. He had even shared them with co-workers to see whether they agreed with him. 2 of them did, and another urged more testing. Tavernetti recognizes that polygraphs are not perfect, yet they are routinely utilized as effective tools by police and employers. He doesn't regret becoming involved in the Bob Lazar tale and claims the event changed his perspective on the UFO phenomenon. Interestingly, the Pentagon's UFO admissions would later match up with Lazar's claims. Describing the craft he worked on, Lazar said, "The craft that I worked on, that when it's going to travel a long distance, that is how it operates. It puts its belly to the target and then brings all of the amplifiers to power, and you know it shoots off in that direction. It doesn't fly as it would in a science fiction movie. It flies with the belly, the bottom forward." If that description of a tilting spacecraft sounds familiar, consider the gimbal UFO. In 2017, the Pentagon released a video. In 2015, naval pilots observed a fleet of the mystery vessels off the coast of Florida, and there have been dozens of similar encounters since then. And the Navy has announced a policy change in response to these increases in UFO events, stating that it wants to urge its pilots to report future incidents. Officials at the Pentagon reluctantly disclosed to the New York Times the military had discreetly researched UFO occurrences, in part to figure out the technology. In the gimbal video, there's a mechanistic turn against the wind without deceleration. And so we have a craft without rotors, without heat signatures, without plumes, without tail fins, and certainly no tail number, moving in a way that is counterintuitive to our aeronautics. When Lazar saw it, he thought it had to be a gravity-driven craft. And you might recollect another famous UFO incident, the 2004 Tic Tac encounter. Black Ace's Commander Dave Fravor, the naval pilot who engaged the Tic Tac, has stated that he does not believe the incredible craft was created on Earth and that the propulsion could be anti-gravity. When Lazar first saw the Tic Tac video, it immediately reminded him of the sport mode, which was his term for the desert hidden craft. Without a doubt, that's how the craft operated, Lazar stated. It's exactly the same propulsion system. And there was also the ATIP, the classified Pentagon investigation that was overseen by former Pentagon intelligence officer Lou Elizondo. He stated that one purpose of the study was to figure out the physics of UFOs and how they do the seemingly impossible. The military came to believe that the craft was made of exotic metamaterials that could not be created with current technology. Now, Lazar made similar assertions decades ago and was mocked for them. Ironically, the Pentagon is now on the same page.